Today on Notsam Wrestling, after everything we saw with that cinema between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, will Cody Rhodes turn heel? Where does CM Punk's Hell in a Cell promo rank with the rest of his promos? Jey Uso has a tremendous week ahead of him, and oh yeah, we're getting Saturday night's main event back. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling, and we start, of course, we talked a lot about our feelings on the emergency podcast that came out on Friday night, coming off of that amazing Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns segment, I'll call it, in the Georgia Tech football stadium. We saw that photo posted on Friday afternoon. Didn't know exactly what it was, a promise of a face-to-face confrontation between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. And then what we got was a full 8.5-minute short film that I think has gotten everybody extremely excited, not only about Bad Blood, but about everything that could happen post Bad Blood. It's pedal to the metal. Roman Reigns is back. You know, we got the Roman Reigns comeback at SummerSlam, and then he was here for a few weeks. Then the Bloodline took him out again. He was gone for a few weeks, but as of night one of SmackDown on USA in this era, Roman Reigns is back, and it would appear that we are now launching in to a fourth quarter 2024 where we will get a Roman Reigns, and I can only imagine if we're getting him because think about it, it's already going to be October by the time we get Roman Reigns at Bad Blood, so we're getting him through October. He might go away for a couple weeks, maybe, but we've got to be getting him at Survivor Series, right? Because that's the end of November, so he can't be away for too long between Bad Blood and the end of November. Coming off the end of November, he's got to be on Netflix in some way, shape, or form, right? That's a month after Survivor Series, maybe 5-6 weeks at most. And then once we're off of Netflix, we're on to the Royal Rumble, we're on to Elimination Chamber, we're on to WrestleMania. I think we could be looking at a big upswing. I think we could be looking at Roman Reigns here maybe until WrestleMania 41. He makes us want it more with all these disappearances. But I think because we talked about how it made us feel and so much of what the possibilities were coming off of that segment itself in the emergency podcast, we should focus here on what I thought was just the most amazing icing to a perfectly baked cake, which was immediately after the thing was over. Immediately after this pre-taped cinematic segment was over. How do we get back into the arena? Well, we fade out, and just as we've been watching at home, who watches the product the same way that we watch the product? Who's the one wrestler in the WWE that watches the shows the same way we were watching the shows? We find out that just as we were watching that segment, so was Kevin Owens. Of course, Kevin Owens, the WWE superstar that watches these shows the same way that we do, was watching that segment, except Kevin Owens is personally invested in this segment. Kevin Owens is watching a person who he had to fight off his evil ways for, who he had to fight against his instincts, causing him to lose an opportunity at the WWE Undisputed Championship. His friend pair up and pledge his allegiance to one of his greatest enemies in his history in the WWE. Cody Rhodes said he will absolutely have Roman Reigns back at Bad Blood, and that's what Kevin Owens heard. Now, Kevin Owens had feelings about this. Byron Saxton bothered him. He walked away. Right when they got back from commercial break, it seemed like, for 5-10 minutes later, Byron Saxton is back to Kevin Owens. Hey, you ready to talk about it now? You ready to talk about it now? That's not how you get somebody to talk, Byron. But Kevin Owens says, I'm going to do my talking in the ring. He goes to the ring to talk about how he's feeling, and what happens? We immediately get the Bloodline coming out and interrupting Kevin Owens. And how do they interrupt Kevin Owens? Yeah. Tama Tonga, the right-hand man, alongside the infamous Tonga Loa, come to the ring, and interrupt Kevin Owens. And we never get it. You know, it sets up a main event. It sets up the six-man tag that's originally going to be Kevin Owens and DIY versus the Bloodline, turns into Kevin Owens and the Street Profits versus the Bloodline. But strategically, we never get to hear how Kevin Owens really feels about what's happening at Bad Blood and what that segment was all about. But at the very end of the show, Cody Rhodes comes out to help Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens, standing behind Cody Rhodes with a steel chair, looking like he was Sami Zayn behind Roman Reigns, looking like he was Seth Rollins behind Roman Reigns, is again fighting those instincts, but gives Cody Rhodes a hug to end SmackDown. Now, people are always looking for a twist in this world of professional wrestling because we've been watching as long as we've been watching, of course. You always have to keep an eye on the twist. And I think the twist that some are wondering is, has Cody Rhodes finally been pushed too far? I've said this for a long time. I would love it if the journey of being WWE champion is Cody Rhodes coming to terms with the fact that he can't have friends. Is Cody Rhodes coming to terms with the fact that he can't both be a good guy and be the greatest champion WWE could possibly know? Because in this era, maybe more than just about any other era, it's never been so competitive. And especially with that WWE championship back into the public consumption after being held hostage by Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, there has never been a lust for that title like there is right now. Because Roman Reigns showed the world what you can do as WWE champion, and that's a dream that theoretically every WWE superstar would have. So everybody wants Cody's gold, friend or foe. And this is the journey that I'd like to see Cody go on, and I think you could argue that that journey has already begun. Cody was a different Cody, as we discussed, when he was with Roman Reigns on that football field. Cody was not quite as humble as he usually is. Cody was a little bit less respectful than he usually is. And Cody was a little bit more willing to give himself credit for his accomplishments than he usually is. Cody Rhodes was there telling Roman Reigns, this is not your title. This is my title. Cody Rhodes was there telling Roman Reigns, look at you now, boy. Look at you now, boy. He was telling Roman Reigns, who are you? We already have a tribal chief. We already have a WWE champion. So who are you? You're the guy who used to be Roman Reigns. I mean, his words were cutting like a knife, far more so than Cody usually does. Between that and the way he's theoretically treating Kevin Owens, there's some wondering, is now the time to turn Cody? Is now the time to turn Cody Rhodes into the villain, into Homelander, into however you want to categorize Cody Rhodes as a heel? My answer, absolutely not. I think that people are looking at what's possible and what could be right there in the future, way down the road, and going, well, why don't we just get there right now? And the reason is because then you'll waste what you have right now. There has not been a more true and organic babyface than Cody Rhodes in decades. It doesn't happen anymore. And I think up until Cody Rhodes, if you had asked people if it was possible, they would have said no. They would have said John Cena has proven that the era of the white meat babyface has gone away. You will never find that universally loved babyface ever again. And it's not true, because Cody Rhodes is that guy. Cody Rhodes is that guy who will walk into a building and get cheered by men, women, and children. Cody Rhodes is that guy who can wrestle great matches as a good guy. Cody Rhodes is that guy who can go do the Today Show, who can go do an award show, who can go do Fallon, who can do all that stuff and hit and check every single box. And we haven't had somebody that can check every single one of those boxes who wasn't an anti-hero, because Cody is not an anti-hero. And we haven't had somebody who's not an anti-hero that can check all those boxes since Hulk Hogan in 1990. And even then, 1989, say, was the last time we really had someone like that. And that's not something that you can just give away, because that's not something you can just reproduce. Cody's story is so unique and to himself that you can't sacrifice that. And besides that, I think that everything counts. What we've seen are maybe seeds planted for an eventual Cody turn way down the road. But way before we get there, the seeds are planted and already starting to bloom for Kevin Owens to find himself again. That's what we're looking at. If you ask me, that's what I'd like to see, is Kevin Owens finding that venom. Is Kevin Owens going, well, why haven't I been world champion for a very long time? When Kevin Owens was a world champion, he was a villain. NXT, WWE Universal, villain. So what does Kevin Owens have to do to get back into that position? Maybe it is be that villain. Because the same lesson that Cody will eventually learn, maybe Kevin Owens is learning that too. Hey, I've been a nice guy, and what's happened? I've lost to Cody Rhodes, and now he says he's my friend, but he signed a contract to tag team with my ultimate enemy to be in a match with the Bloodline again. What? You saw Kevin Owens' reaction when Nick Aldis was getting ready to make a title match between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That's why ultimately Kevin Owens accepted the title match with Cody Rhodes, I think, is because he realized that the alternative was for Roman Reigns to get a rematch. And he couldn't think of anything worse than the Bloodline ascending to power once more. And he's watching his quote-unquote friend Cody Rhodes do that. He's got every reason in the world to turn on Cody Rhodes. Not only that, I think more than WWE needs Cody as a villain. Because let's face it, Cody as a villain, I mean, what does that make for an interesting... I mean, you'll probably tell me, well, then Roman Reigns can be a babyface and Cody Rhodes can be a heel. Sure, but Roman Reigns isn't going to be here for 365 days. Cody will be here for 365 days. Instead of having that, you've got this complex relationship where you can still do Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Not only can you, you must. People are hungry to still do Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again without having to turn Cody Rhodes. But if you look at who you can turn, you got to do Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is the villain. You got to do Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton is the villain. You got to get to Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. And then, if Kevin Owens is the one that turns, not only do you have Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, you can get to Kevin Owens versus CM Punk, who Kevin Owens has been, kind of drip feeding us the fact that he and CM Punk don't get along very well without turning CM Punk. You can get to Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins eventually, and I know what you're saying. Well, Kevin Owens is on SmackDown. You're listing members of the Monday Night Raw roster. Well, first of all, who knows when we'll get another draft, because there have been so many rumors about this one's going to be 2 hours, this one's going to be 3 hours. I mean, the rosters may look different at some point, but it would behoove us to not mention, or it would behoove us to mention, I suppose, that Kevin Owens wrestled in red on SmackDown on Friday. He came out to do his promo in the shirt with KO written in blue, but by the time he got to the ring for the main event, he was wearing his red and black Kevin Owens shirt. He was wearing red and black Kevin Owens boots. Now, I don't know if that's because he's going back to his roots as a villain. I don't know if he's hinting that he wants to head towards Monday Night Raw. I don't know what he's doing. But also, by the way, Kevin Owens as a villain, if he goes after Cody Rhodes, then ends up back on Monday Night Raw and ends up in a position with CM Punk, ends up in a position with Seth Rollins. You've also got Jey Uso, who's one of the top good guys on Monday Night Raw, that could be staring down an evil Kevin Owens. You've then got Sami Zayn, who's wondering what happened to his friend Kevin Owens. To me, there's just too much to do with Kevin Owens as the villain and Cody Rhodes is the good guy, not just with each other, but then once they're separated on both sides. Speaking of the bloodline, speaking of Jey Uso, I've been wanting to talk to you guys about Jey Uso since Monday night because I watched the promo between Jey Uso and Braun Breaker. And all I could think about, I started playing out these scenarios in my head because as I'm watching, I'm going, you know what? I'd really like it if Jey Uso won the Intercontinental Championship. I mean, I know Braun Breaker hasn't had it all that long. I know Braun Breaker hasn't had that many big wins since beating Sami Zayn for the title, but not every champion can have these long reigns. Since Triple H kind of took over, we've had a lot of long reigning champions. And long championship reigns are a good thing. Long championship reigns are a good thing because ultimately it makes it so that we take it seriously when somebody wins a title. We don't go, oh yeah, they won, but they might just lose it next week. We go, okay, they're the one. That's why when LA Knight won the United States Championship, it's like, okay, they're going with LA Knight. When Braun Breaker beat Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, oh, they're going with Braun Breaker. And don't get me started on Gunther winning the World Heavyweight Championship. All that said, to me, I feel so strongly about Jey Uso and the connection that Jey Uso has. Now, this could go easily either of the two different ways, with Braun Breaker winning or with Jey Uso winning. I thought that the moment they had on Monday Night Raw was just perfect when you had Jey Uso seeing Braun Breaker coming, knowing what was coming, and catching Braun Breaker with a spear before Braun Breaker was able to unleash his own. Then Braun Breaker coming back at the end of the night and returning the favor. Now, Braun Breaker coming back at the end of the night reminded me, oh, things might not be exactly as they seem because of Jey Uso's involvement in this whole Judgment Day thing. So we've got two stories to play out. To me, Jey Uso this week being Intercontinental Champion or not being Intercontinental Champion is going to define who Jey Uso is as we leave this year and go into next. When you talk about the bloodline, there was a time last year, there were some arguing. I remember having this conversation on this podcast right here. There were many arguing that ultimately the bloodline story was Jey Uso's story. When Jey Uso and Roman Reigns were main eventing SummerSlam, there were people that were saying that the bloodline story was Jey Uso's story described as a Roman Reigns story. I never believed that, but I would agree that the bloodline story, that the Jey Uso story is an essential part of that bloodline story. You go back to the beginning of Roman Reigns being the tribal chief and Roman Reigns first returning in whatever, 2020, I guess it was, and winning the WWE Championship. Who was that first real rivalry that defined what this run was going to be? That was Jey Uso. And the story behind Jey Uso, and the story that carried us from then all the way through the whole Sami Zayn saga, post-Sami Zayn, into Jey Uso declaring himself as being independent from the bloodline. This entire thing was all about this manipulation and mental control that Roman Reigns had over Jey Uso. And what it was based upon was the idea that Jey Uso had the ability to be the guy. And all he's got to do is prove it to Roman Reigns. That Roman Reigns, he's trying to help his cousin. He's trying to help Jey Uso truly become main event Jey Uso. And Jey Uso's inability to ever get all the way there is what kind of kept him under this spell, under the thumb of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. And all of it really started because Jimmy was injured. Jimmy was out with an injury. The Usos were off TV. They said, well, we could do something with Jey while we're starting this, Roman Reigns tribal chief thing. And Roman and Jey just worked together. And eventually Jimmy came back and this thing expanded and expanded and expanded. But key to the very beginning of the bloodline and the very beginning of the arc that led to where Jey Uso is today is Jey Uso finding himself as a single star, as his own man. That Roman Reigns promo where he said, people come up to me and they go, oh, there's Roman Reigns. There's Roman Reigns. When they go up to you, they say, which one is he? He's a twin. He's a tag team. Is that Jey or Jimmy? And Jey sensed that not this year. This doesn't start with, at the beginning of this year, Jey said, I'm going to be a singles champion by the end of this year. This starts back there. That's the beginning of Jey finding himself as a single star, and it leads all the way to WrestleMania 40, when he's now, instead of tagging in the main event, which he did at WrestleMania 39 with his brother Jimmy, he's now wrestling his brother Jimmy in a singles match. And after beating him, he's theoretically ready to move on, but okay, go to Monday Night Raw. Be without the bloodline. Show me who you are. Without the bloodline, without Jimmy, without Cody, either next to you or across the ring from you. And that's the Jey that we're getting. If Jey were to win the Intercontinental Championship, not only would it put a bow on that story, but it would put a bow on that story at the absolute perfect time. Because if we are getting the OG bloodline versus the new bloodline, if that's at War Games, if that's just the story that we're telling, if part of Roman Reigns' return now is rebuilding the original bloodline so that they can put the new bloodline down once and for all, how poetic would it be if Roman had Jimmy, if Roman had the wise man? And when he looked at Jey, he realized that Jey had truly moved on. That Jey has his own business that he's attending to. Jey is a champion in his own right. And that, quite honestly, Jey has nothing to do with the bloodline anymore. If you want to build a superpower, if you want to just get the top baby faces together, that's when you'll call Jey. But to realize that upon winning that Intercontinental Championship, that Jey is no longer just waiting for Roman to reassemble the bloodline. And in fact, when Roman does, he's not there for it, and it's not hostile. It's not hostile. It's not angry. It's not Roman trying to convince him. It's not Jey having to fight it off. It's this realization that everybody involved has that Jey has left the nest. He's learned to fly on his own. And that, to me, is what winning the Intercontinental title right now for Jey Uso would do. That, however, begs the question, does that mean you're not doing bloodline versus bloodline at War Games? Does that mean you're going with option B, which is an option that I presented last week on the podcast, which is Roman and a team of babyfaces, which is the new bloodline versus Roman, Cody, Randy, and KO. And this leads to Randy and KO obviously turning on Cody after Survivor Series. But if you are going to do bloodline versus bloodline, then you would kind of need Jey. Jey could easily lose the Intercontinental Championship match against Braun Breaker due to Judgment Day interference. The Judgment Day is business that Jey Uso should probably not be involved with right now. Right? Well, he's got bigger fish to fry over here, but he is. Once again, he's found himself involved in some other family business that's distracting him from getting as far as he can go. I think if Jey Uso does not win this match, then Jey Uso does end up back in the fold. Jey Uso does have to kind of turn and look at Roman Reigns. Jey Uso does go back, and that's not even necessarily a negative thing. That doesn't mean Jey Uso goes back to being, under the thumb. That doesn't mean that the sort of mental manipulation and torture continues from Roman Reigns, that the gaslighting continues, all that stuff. I don't think it does. I think there is an acknowledgement that Jey Uso has grown as a performer, but has not outgrown the bloodline. And we wouldn't say he hasn't outgrown the bloodline, but it's clear he hasn't outgrown the bloodline because he'd be back in the bloodline. Whereas if he were Intercontinental Champion, maybe he wouldn't be. So I'm not saying Jey Uso is going to win the Intercontinental Championship or not. And by the time you're watching this or listening to this, you may already know. You may not listen the day this thing comes out. But what I am saying is, to me, Jey winning the Intercontinental Championship one way or another defines Jey Uso right now. Is he somebody that is just waiting for the bloodline to come back into the fold and for this new version of Jey Uso to join this new version of Roman Reigns and reignite the flame that lit the WWE for years? Or do we have an Intercontinental Champion who has outgrown his previous position in the bloodline? It's very, very compelling to me. Guys, forgive the interruption, but I want to remind you not to just watch football this season, to cash in on it. With MyBookie, it's easier than ever to bet and win. This season, they have amazing promos you won't want to miss, like their weekly risk-free boosts. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, MyBookie will give you a refund, so there's nothing to lose. It makes watching this football stuff so much more fun. During the commercial breaks, keep playing with MyBookie's blackjack tables, baccarat, and poker bet. When you're ready to get started, just click the link in the show notes, sign up, and you're ready to bet. Use promo code NOTSAM to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. You heard that right. Double your money with code NOTSAM before you even place a bet. Loyalty pays off. With MyBookie Plus, the more you play, the more you win. It's simple. Climb through tiers of the loyalty rewards program to unlock even more epic promotions, exclusive giveaways, and bigger rewards. MyBookie Plus is the lock of the century. Bet on anything, anywhere, anytime, and make your season a winning season. When you think about it in those terms, when I think about it in those terms, it becomes extremely, extremely compelling. Also extremely, extremely compelling on Monday was CM Punk's promo on Raw responding to Drew McIntyre. Of course, the week before, Drew McIntyre had been on Raw and explaining his actions. Adam Pearce comes out, says this has to end, announces Hell in a Cell. CM Punk comes back to Raw last Monday and cuts a promo that some have said is his best promo since returning to WWE. I don't know if it's his best promo, but I do know it was very good. You know, I guess you'd have to give me a list of all the promos, and maybe I could start ranking them. But, I mean, different promos have served different purposes. You know, when CM Punk is out there with a microphone, and you're still in the afterglow of him being back in the WWE at all, that's a sensational feeling. And that may make you think, oh, this is the one. You know, when CM Punk is face-to-face with Seth Rollins, maybe that's the one. You know, when CM Punk is face-to-face with Cody Rhodes, maybe, who knows? But it was really great, and it was really different. Because maybe, and this is maybe why people thought this way for the first time, CM Punk did not show up just happy to be back. There has been, no matter how personal things get, no matter what story is being told, no matter who he's in there with, even when he's got a suit on and he's doing commentary, there is something in CM Punk's voice. There is something in CM Punk's essence that he is telling us he is happy to be back and didn't, like, all of this is icing because he never thought he would be back here to begin with. So the fact that he gets to be back here performing on a high level, it brings him joy. I think Monday was the first promo that CM Punk cut where that joy wasn't there. He wasn't happy to be back. He wasn't thinking about this as one of the things that he's doing now that he's back. Can you believe that I'm back? Oh, and also I'll be doing this week, but who knows what I'll be doing next week? No. All of a sudden, it's zeroed in. For the first time in the 10 months that CM Punk has been back. He cut a promo that wasn't based on anything before or anything after. There was no room in here to cite things that he had done previously in his WWE or AEW career. There was no room in here to talk about what happens 1, 2, 3, 6, 12 months from now. It was here and now, and that's all that exists. He described Drew McIntyre as his mortal enemy, which already, I mean, really is fairly mind-boggling. Because when CM Punk first came back, you started making that list, right? And I'm sure if you go back 11 months ago, 10 months ago, we made that list. But go back by anybody's list. I'm sure you're talking about Seth Rollins. I'm sure you're talking about Kevin Owens. I'm sure you're talking about Cody Rhodes. I'm sure you're talking about Roman Reigns. But I don't think, and I'm sure at some point you'll go, oh yeah, and he'll probably do something with Drew McIntyre. I don't think anybody realized that the first year that he was back in WWE would be absolutely consumed with Drew McIntyre, that it would be Drew McIntyre with CM Punk, telling the story that will no doubt go down as rivalry of the year on any list that has any integrity whatsoever. That it would be Drew McIntyre that CM Punk described as his mortal enemy. You cannot have all that many mortal enemies. By very definition, there's not room in anybody's life for multiple mortal enemies because one of them is going to get you. So the fact that Drew McIntyre is that guy and that pinpoint is on it, I think is so interesting. And Punk reiterated that Hell in the Cell was a place to end this. And this is a phrase that has now been used multiple times over the course of only a couple of weeks. Drew McIntyre has said it. Adam Pearce has said it. Now CM Punk has said it. The reason we are going into Hell in a Cell is that this is where we are going to end this. This is not fan speculation. This is not us as the smart wrestling fans going, well, historically, the Hell in a Cell is used to culminate a rivalry. No. This is the participants in the match on television letting us know the story of this Hell in a Cell match. The reason that after the special guest referee match at SummerSlam and the strap match at Bash in Berlin, the reason that you should care about this Hell in a Cell match is not just that the two of us will be covered in steel, but it's because this is the end. And I hope on Raw or at the pay-per-view or wherever they decide to do it, the go-home Raw or the pay-per-view itself, that there is a spectacular video package that tells the story of this entire rivalry from start to finish. And you can start with the fan footage of Drew McIntyre angrily leaving the War Games cage before CM Punk comes out at Survivor Series last November. And the little shots that Drew McIntyre took even after that. And the fact that he went right for CM Punk in the Royal Rumble, and so on, and so on, and so on. I think that it adds so much that everybody is making that clear point going in, because Hell in a Cell, like every stipulation in the history of WWE, has been bastardized to an extent. You could say, this is where literally the first Hell in a Cell match had interference. Hell in a Cell is a structure created so that no question is left to be answered. And the very first one had The Undertaker's long-lost brother, Kane, ripping the door off and tombstoning The Undertaker. Shawn Michaels beat The Undertaker in the very first Hell in a Cell match due to outside interference. I mean, Mankind and The Undertaker started on the roof of the thing. Rikishi got thrown off the roof onto the back of a truck. Seth Rollins and The Fiend fought to like a referee stoppage inside Hell in a Cell. This is not something that we can just take for granted. And so the fact that they're saying, no. The reason this is being instituted is because it's the end. There is no Hell in a Cell pay-per-view anymore. We don't do Hell in a Cell because we've got to do Hell in a Cell, because there's a quota of Hell in a Cell matches per year. Hell in a Cell is taken out when it is absolutely required. And they've left no question as to why Hell in a Cell is absolutely required in this situation. Hearing CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Adam Pearce refer to this as the end is the whole build. It's the biggest part of the build of this match, because it's telling us we have to see something definitive here. Not a special referee, not touching the corner post. There has to be a definitive winner. CM Punk said that despite his family not wanting him to, he's doing this because CM Punk has the devil inside of him, and Drew McIntyre has woken that up. Punk promises, here's another promise. You can't say you're going to do things and these things don't happen. Punk has promised to make Drew McIntyre bleed. He said, I can't promise that I'll end your life, but I can promise that I will make you bleed. And I can promise that you're going to have to kill me, he says. He's ready to fight to the death. He's ready for it all to end, he says. By the way, how wild would it be if Drew McIntyre actually won this match and CM Punk left wrestling forever? Like, it really was. Drew McIntyre killed the CM Punk character, and he won the Hell in a Cell, and we never saw CM Punk again, and Phil Brooks went and lived life as Phil Brooks. It would be wild. It won't happen. I don't see any scenario where CM Punk does not win this match. Right now, and it's a wild thing to say, because there's a bloodline match on this show. Strike that. There's a Roman Reigns match on this show. Bad Blood will feature Roman Reigns' first WWE match in the ring since WrestleMania 40. And still, I can't help but think this Hell in a Cell match is the match that needs to close the show. If it's the end of the rivalry, if these two are going to make each other bleed, if they're promising to fight to the death, if it's definitive inside that cell, how do you follow it? Especially with a match, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu is a match that ultimately, although there is so much history behind it, is the beginning. This tag match at Bad Blood is the beginning of what the Bloodline story is going to tell us going forward towards WrestleMania 41. It's the beginning. I feel like you have to end on the conclusion. And the match that is a true conclusion, because you could say the Judgment Day stuff, maybe, but maybe not. There is nothing about Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan or Finn Balor and Damian Priest that has promised to be the punctuation mark on those rivalries. Could be. You could have Rhea Ripley win the women's championship. She moves on. It's possible. But it's also not guaranteed. We're being promised punctuation in this Punk and McIntyre match. So it would feel to me like a misstep to not have this match go on last. But I'm not going to pretend to know what anybody's got planned. I will say that my favorite Everything Counts moment all week came from Finn Balor. So I think that the Judgment Day has been running on all cylinders. This is a story that could have gotten stale easily. Another one of these rivalries that, Liv Morgan announces she's on the Rhea Ripley Revenge Tour in January. And she's not the one who's going to WrestleMania. It's going to be Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. But Rhea Ripley ends up getting injured right after WrestleMania. That's April. Since then, Liv Morgan, the Judgment Day, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, it's all been one story. That's April, May, June, July, August, September. We're in month 6 of this story, and it hasn't gotten stale because it keeps evolving and because everything counts. It's been really very interesting and a true babyface turn for Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley in the sense that for some reason when people turn babyface, they forget what they did when they were villains. The Judgment Day is operating like the Judgment Day always has. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley get the better of them more times than they don't, but ultimately at the end of the night, it's the Judgment Day that stands strong. In matches, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley both proved that they are superior to whoever they're in the ring with. However, ultimately, they forget about the numbers game. Ultimately, they forget about the strategy. Ultimately, they forget about the ruthlessness of the Judgment Day. And Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley end up on their backs, and the Judgment Day looks even stronger for it. I don't 100% know why the Judgment Day is wearing shirts that say street trash on them. I mean, there were rumors that they were going to change the name of the group, but I mean, the Judgment Day is the Judgment Day is the Judgment Day for me. It's one of the most fascinating factions in the history of the WWE in the sense that, like, so many times they've been written off and so many times they've been in scenarios where it's like, okay, we'll play this out and then it'll be the end. Or I can't picture this going that much longer because it'll get stale. And it never does. It just keeps going and going and going. Like the old school Energizer Bunny. It's unbelievable. But Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest not really being fully focused on what's been the Judgment Day's MO since they were in the group has been a fascinating turn. But even more fascinating was that if you really wanted to get in deep in the nerdy wrestling conversations, there were still people, myself included. What do we do here? We fantasy book. We do fan fiction. We ship. We do everything, right? And there were still people that were talking about, well, don't forget, when the whole Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Judgment Day thing was all happening, there were all these weird circumstances of Finn Balor and Liv Morgan getting out of the same car, of Finn Balor being the one that took Liv Morgan's hotel room key. And there were some that were wondering if another turn was coming and if Liv was going to turn on Dom to go to Finn Balor. Now, I never saw that happening. I still don't necessarily see that happening. And the reason I don't is because Dominic Mysterio would have to be a babyface in that scenario. And I don't see that for him right now, anytime soon. However, what I did see was Finn Balor taking ownership. Finn Balor understanding that everything counts. And there's something that he can say here. There's something that this character can say here. That if you just started watching this week, it'll be like, oh, okay, that's adding some depth to the story that we're seeing. But if you've been watching for the last year, it goes, oh, that explains that. That's the best. That's the way wrestling stories should be told. They should be told in a way where these details can add to what's going on presently, but in actuality, explain stuff that could have happened months ago. Finn Balor said he was the devil on Dominic Mysterio's shoulder. He was the one who helped orchestrate the Dominic Mysterio turn, which is why it all happened at the same time. Finn Balor turned at SummerSlam. Finn Balor turns on Damian Priest the same time Dominic officially turns on Rhea Ripley. And what Finn Balor implied by saying he was the devil on Dominic's shoulder was, yeah, Dominic, go for it, and we'll do it all at SummerSlam. So what was Finn Balor doing in that hotel room? What was Finn Balor doing in the car? He wasn't seducing Liv Morgan or being seduced by Liv Morgan. Get your mind out of the gutter. He was strategizing, okay? Liv Morgan and Finn Balor were up there making plans so that Liv Morgan and her love of all loves, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor's friends, JD McDonough, and Cool Carlito Caribbean Cool, could all form and get stronger for it and cut out this dead weight. Everything counts. And all these months later, you could have assumed that that was happening, but there it was. Finn Balor said it flat out. This is exactly what I was doing. Hey guys, we'll get back to it in a minute, but if you have run your way through everything good on Netflix, then it's time to get ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN lets you change your online location and get access to thousands of new shows. Just switch your location to another country and you'll instantly be able to watch that country's entire streaming library. It's so easy to do. Just fire up the app on your computer or your TV, change your location to anywhere you'd like, refresh your favorite streamer, and that's it. I mean, how do you think I was able to watch the WWE Network way longer than anybody else I know here in the States? How? Because of ExpressVPN. Choose from almost 100 different countries to access tons of new shows. ExpressVPN works on all of your streaming services, so there's always new content right at your fingertips. So be smart. Stop paying full price for streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of their content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/notsam. Don't forget to use my link at expressvpn.com/notsam to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. We got big news. Saturday night's main event is making its return. And yes, we did technically predict it last week on the show before Saturday night's main event was announced as returning. I did say that WWE should bring back the 80s phenomenal show and do it in the Sphere. Of course, they're not going to be doing it in the Sphere. They're going to be doing it in the Nassau Coliseum, which is like the Sphere of the East. They say that. They go, the Nassau Coliseum is Long Island's answer to the Sphere. And I go, how's that? They go, well, the edges are kind of rounded. If you look at it, it's not quite a rectangle. It's kind of rounded. So the reason why, and I, of course, had no knowledge that Saturday night's main event was coming back. But when WWE announced that they had signed a TV deal to put SmackDown on the USA Network, they also announced they were going to do quarterly specials on NBC. I mean, it's 4 shows a year on NBC proper network. And as soon as they made that announcement, all I could think of was, how perfect would it be to bring back Saturday night's main event once a quarter? NBC was the original home of Saturday night's main event. You know, they did one on Fox. I think they may have done a couple on USA, like much, much later. But originally, that's where it was in the classic Saturday night main events. The where you've got the Hogan the Hogan and Andre match, where Andre beats Hogan and he sells the title to Ted DiBiase, who's hired the referee to get plastic surgery that looks exactly like Dave Hebner. Find out it's Earl Hebner. You know, the whole thing. All of those ratings juggernauts took place on NBC. So it's coming back, and I believe that the first Saturday night's main event was in the Nassau Coliseum, which is why that's a great venue and a historic venue to put that show in. December 14th is the date that we've got, and it's at 8 p.m. I don't know that any TV listing has been double, triple confirmed. Classically, or in the very, very early days, like the beginning of Saturday night's main event, it was on at 11:30 p.m. because it was on in the SNL time slot. When SNL would be off, they'd throw in WWE. But this one, and I think it's smart not to put it on at 11:30 at night. It appears it'll be on prime time on NBC Saturday night, December 14th, live from the Nassau Coliseum. The commercial was phenomenal. Obsession was the song. Probably can't sing anymore, you know, copyright as it is. But that was the original song that they played for SNL. That was the original, not SNL, Saturday Night's Main Event, SNME. That was the original SNME song. And it returns for this commercial that is super, 80s-ified. I think that it's going to be incredible. I think that what you've got is the people that are in charge of this company right now, in terms of creative and in terms of programming. You've got Triple H and you've got Nick Khan. Triple H is like the biggest student of the game ever, right? He loves wrestling. Nick Khan grew up with wrestling, I'm sure. Nick Khan grew up watching Saturday Night's Main Event. And I think that you've got the opportunity to do something, and this is where the WWE is at right now, I think, that pays tribute to the past for all of us that grew up with it, but ultimately puts on a huge show for fans that have been watching for the last 6 months or less. You don't have to walk in an expert to get everything that happened. We're not going to put everybody in like 80s nostalgia gear and make it over the top, but there'll be little things like putting the Obsession song in the commercial, like doing it at the Nassau Coliseum. Little things for us history buffs that go, oh yeah, this is very fitting. But ultimately, even if you don't know any of the history, you still get just as much out of the show. And I think that's what we've got. I think really what you've got is another massive show, right? And it's going to start going quick. I would imagine, especially it being on NBC in primetime, that Saturday Night's Main Event is going to be a big show for WWE. A big match, big show. And I think that it should be. I think you've got the opportunity. I think that you should treat this the way they treated it in the 80s. I think that you should treat this like this is the opportunity to get new eyeballs on this. Roman Reigns should be in the main event for this year's Saturday Night's Main Event, especially since it's the first one in years. Not to say that they're all gonna be massive, but this one I feel like should be pretty big. I think the idea of Roman versus, maybe you do Roman versus Cody. You could do Roman versus Solo here. Roman versus Jacob. Like there's plenty of matches that you could do, but I think you should have a storyline heavy. I can't believe it's happening on free TV. Roman Reigns versus X match here. Because what you're going to have is you're going to have a War Games match at Survivor Series in Vancouver Thanksgiving weekend. That's the end of November. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I believe it'll be about 3 weeks between Survivor Series and Saturday Night's Main Event, December 14th. Right? So you've got 3 weeks between those two. So whatever happens at Survivor Series, you let the dust settle and realize that we've got to do something here. There's a match that maybe within whatever happens in War Games, a singles match, and we're going to go straight for it, and that's going to happen in 3 weeks at Saturday Night's Main Event. What's after Saturday Night's Main Event? 3 weeks after Saturday Night's Main Event is January 1st, January 4th, whatever it is. The Raw premiere on Netflix. So we're going Survivor Series, 3 weeks, Saturday Night's Main Event, 3 weeks, Raw on Netflix premiere, where you can have another massive match or a massive return or something like that. That's going to lead you less than a month from then is the Royal Rumble, and now we're going to WrestleMania, baby. Get ready for it, because it is coming, and it is coming very, very fast. Now, this one I want to talk about just for me. I got to talk about this because I started having these visions, right? So Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman are doing some of the funnest stuff on Monday Night Raw right now. The idea that they're like tearing apart the building, the way the rope snapped when Bronson Reed got sent into it before the match even started. Bronson Reed picking up a fan and throwing it at Braun Strowman. Them collapsing the guardrails, then going back, going through the drywall, going through everything, crushing a car a few weeks ago. It's all great. I love it. But what I really loved was what was going on under the surface. Not behind the walls, because we saw what was going on behind the walls because they crushed the walls. But under the surface, before that match happened, The Miz, who has been a babyface, who has been tag teaming with R-Truth, who was taken out by Bronson Reed, goes, hey, man, good luck tonight against Bronson Reed. Braun Strowman goes, thanks, man. They have this really nice camaraderie, this real nice chemistry between the two of them. And then before Miz goes, he goes, oh, by the way, what did you mean when you said I'm no match for Bronson Reed? And Braun Strowman goes, oh, no, I didn't mean any disrespect by that. And Miz is going, well, I've won every title there is to win. I've won the world title, the Intercontinental title, the tag team title. Oh, I know. You don't have to tell me, Miz. I know. I didn't mean anything by it. I just mean sometimes you need a monster to beat a monster. You know what I mean? And the Miz goes, right. And I'm not a monster. He said, I'm no monster. Right. Okay, no problem. And the Miz walks off. Man, I want this so badly to result in one more run for The Miz as an absolute villain. The Miz as an absolute villain who has gotten no respect for his accomplishments. The Miz was already not getting respected, but then he goes on this babyface run with R-Truth, and everybody's having fun with The Miz. But nobody's sitting there taking him seriously. As a former world champion, Intercontinental champion, United States champion, tag team champion. He's won it all. He's a double, triple crown winner. And nobody puts him in that category. People asked me. A clip went around. Hey, Sam, what's the worst WrestleMania? I said WrestleMania 27. You think The Miz liked that? I know he didn't like that because he went on every show he could possibly go on to talk about how much he did not like that. I think that energy Miz coming out on the show could be phenomenal. What if The Miz takes that from Braun Strowman? I get it. I'm no monster. I want to see The Miz become a monster. I want to see The Miz become an egotistical monster. I want to see The Miz show us how he was able to get a double, triple crown. I want The Miz to show us that he's not done, that he's not in the twilight of his career, that he's not on a victory lap right now. I want The Miz to go out there with a singular mission to prove to anybody that when WWE is at its most competitive, which it is right now, that The Miz is not the one to be forgotten about. I want The Miz to be dirty. I want The Miz to be underhanded. I want The Miz's humanity to completely disappear. All we hear about is the horrible, awful people that are in Hollywood. I want The Miz to be a horrible, awful person. And just to take everything from everyone and keep it for himself. I want Braun Strowman in that conversation to bring out the monster in The Miz. I want one more heel run for The Miz. And I want it to be everything, man. I always thought after that Talking Smack promo, that part of The Miz's career, if you had done the right things, The Miz could have easily ascended to be the WWE champion in that part of his career. And there would have been no question as to whether, oh, yeah, he cashed in the briefcase. I don't know if he deserved it. Maybe it wasn't his time. Nope. He would have gotten it because it was his time. We've got our baby faces. We got some of the best baby faces ever. Let's have a real heel. Like The Miz. Just come up and spoil everything for everyone. That's just what I want to see. Let's get into some news and notes before we get into emails. Of course, it looks like we're getting ready for our next story from the Wyatt Six. I feel like we're done with American Alpha and the Wyatt Six, at least for the time being, and that now it seems like we're going to dip more into Wyatt Six, maybe history. I think Braun Strowman maybe next on the Wyatt Six's list. Maybe an Alexa Bliss appearance, something like that. But if I could predict, I would think that's where we're going, but I'm very much looking forward to see how it all goes. There are rumors that SmackDown's now going to go 3 hours. I take all this with a grain of salt, you know. We found out Raw was going 2 hours when they announced it on commentary. Because first they said, well, SmackDown's going to go 3 hours. Then they said, when Raw goes to Netflix, it'll go back to 3 hours. But there's a lot of rumors all over the internet. I'm gonna wait to comment on it until I get an official something or other about it. And that's the same way I feel about rumors that the Lucha Brothers are coming to WWE. It's the same way I feel about the rumors that Miro asked for his AEW release. I think it'd be real interesting to see the Lucha Brothers in the WWE. I don't know which show. I almost feel like I'd rather see one of the shows really build up a tag division and then the Lucha Brothers show up for it. You know, because I think because both shows right now, you know, I think that the Bloodline has the SmackDown Tag Team Championship hostage, as the Bloodline does with titles. And I think the Judgment Day never defends the Tag Team Championship. So with those things happening, your tag team division can't be at its strongest. As far as Miro goes, of course I'd like to see Miro. I'd love to see the return of Rusev Day. I mean, I'd just like to see him doing well wherever he is. So it'll be interesting to see where he turns up. And then, of course, we've got AEW Grand Slam this week, which I think will be one of those great AEW shows. You know, I think that ultimately Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness is going to be awesome. I think people will just always question why you had to be so weird with the build to it. Why you couldn't just announce the match was happening and figure out a story to get there and tell that story. Because it's been a real weird build for what's going to be an incredible, incredible match so many years in the making. Quick interruption, guys. You know we've all been there, running late, no time for breakfast. Well, there is finally a solution. Support for Notsam Wrestling is brought to you by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand. No prep and no cooking needed. Just grab a Huel and get on with your day. Huel tastes like a milkshake and comes in both chocolate and vanilla. They're high protein, they're low sugar, they have 27 vitamins and minerals. They take all the guesswork out of healthy eating. I'm terrible about it. I'm always in a rush. I'm trying to get more protein in my diet, so I end up eating something terrible, something I find at a gas station store. Huel has been a godsend. In addition to tasting great, Huel is also super affordable. Each meal comes down to like $2.50, so you can feel full without having to break the bank. Take the leap and join the community of Hueligans with 15% off using code NOTSAM at Huel.com. That's 15% off with code NOTSAM at Huel, HUEL.com. Or just click the link in my show notes. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel, nutritionally complete meals in minutes, so you can focus on what really matters. Let's see if you guys got any opinions on that stuff. The email address is notsamwrestling@gmail.com, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. That's notsamwrestling@gmail.com. And we go to these emails here. First one's from Luke. He goes, Podcast Chief, I love you. I acknowledge you. From Perth, Western Australia. Saw you on the Jumbotron at the Elimination Chamber. It was cool. Yeah, I'm on Jumbotron. It's cool. That's my Carlito. The Cody and Roman promo is one of the best creative pieces of TV I've seen in a long time. He just wrote TV. When Cody put his arm out, stopped Roman from leaving, Roman says, you're in my way. You're in my way in life. When Roman says, you're in my way, in the first instance, I knew, and I think we all knew exactly what he meant. I'd love it if he dropped the in my way in life part of the line and let us, the audience, simmer on its double meaning. The best part of the Bloodline saga over the years has been reading between the lines. The symbolism and the small nuances that sometimes take a second viewing to notice. I understand this is a small thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Luke, I'm going to tell you personally, from just like, if you're programming this just for me, I felt the exact same way as you. As soon as he said, you're in my way, I went, oh, he doesn't mean you're in my way right now. He means you're in my way. And then he clarified it. But it also didn't bother me when he clarified it, because now we go, okay, we have said it. This isn't something we're going to reveal later. We are working under the knowledge that Roman Reigns feels like Cody Rhodes is in his way in a general sense right now. So that way we can go to the match at Bad Blood. Commentary can talk about it. We can all be on the same page. It's not speculative. If it was speculative, because speculative is great for the podcast. Because this podcast it's one of the guiding principles is to speculate wildly. So I'm always going to go for wild speculation. But sometimes I think it is also good to just spell out the facts, so that way we can all be on board with this is the story that's being told. There's no debate, if that makes sense. Pranav from India writes in, I'd like to acknowledge you, that you exist for us. Yeah. Since we got this tag team match at Bad Blood, which no one expected it, Solo Sikoa and Jacob versus Cody and Roman, according to you, who would take the pinfall in this match since all four look strong going forward? Also, Solo taking the pinfall would make him look weak, and Jacob is booked so strong. I'm confused who's going to win. I don't know right now, to tell you the truth. Maybe that's something I could tell you closer to time. I mean, part of me wonders if Cody will take the pinfall and Roman will let it happen, and there'll be some, I don't know, something to that. That's what makes this so intriguing, man. There are a lot of different ways that it could go. Let's go to Sarah. Hi, my podcast tribal chief. I acknowledge you. This Carmelo and Andrade feud is fire. Watching the product, seems like the 7th match of this best of 7 ends the feud at Bad Blood. What are your thoughts? Well, I don't think it's going to happen at Bad Blood because that Bad Blood card is getting very, very crowded. It could take us to the SmackDown before Bad Blood because it would on the calendar. But no, I think that, yeah, because we're getting another Mello and Andrade match that I would imagine Mello would win. It'll put him at 3-3. But yeah, I mean, they could do it at Bad Blood, but Bad Blood already has a lot of matches on it, you know? I mean, it'd be a big look for them if it was. This is from, well, the last name's Singh. The first name, I'm not even going to attempt it. Divyanshu. Yeah, I shouldn't have attempted it. Love from India. Hope you and your family are doing well. They're doing great. You call me Div in episode 469, so Div here. Yeah, okay, all right. So he's written him before, or they've written him before, and I had trouble. So what up, Div? Everyone is mocking WWE for putting up Sammy in front of Gunther. But looking at the bigger picture, WWE is just trying to remove the asterisks from Gunther's reign. First, they did it with Randy. Now they're doing it with Sammy, as Sammy is the only one to pin Gunther. By defeating Sammy, Gunther will legitimize his title reign. Thoughts? I don't think that at all. First of all, I don't know why I haven't heard people mocking WWE for it. Maybe they are. I don't hear everything, but it doesn't seem like they should. You know, I think Sammy is a perfect babyface. I think that you can't, not every single Gunther match is going to be the match of the century match, you know. Sammy, there's nobody better on that show than Sammy at making people believe maybe, just maybe, he can do it. I don't think it's about legitimizing the reign so much. I think the reign's pretty legitimate. But I just think it's about having somebody people can cheer for, that maybe you can make them believe during the match, fighting somebody who people boo for and having the guy that you boo win. I think that's all it is. Corey writes in, hey, Sam, emailing up here from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'll get right to it. What are your thoughts on a potential story for the Women's War Games match? Thanks for all the wrestling content on Mondays and the necessary emergency pods that you pepper in as well. P.S. An event-exclusive live pod tee would cook this year for Mania. Yeah. It's not a bad idea, the event-exclusive t-shirt. The next t-shirt idea is going to smoke. It's going to smoke. Women's War Games. Well, it feels like if Nia and Tiffy are still in tow, you could do, well, yeah, you could do Nia, Tiffy, Chelsea, and Piper as the heel team. You could also have the Pure Fusion Collective, the PFC, get joined by, you know, one other, maybe the PFC alongside Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile would be pretty cool to join them. The four of them versus like a babyface team of you know, maybe, I don't know if I do Rhea because you're not putting Liv in there, but yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of faction warfare amongst the women right now, but you could do, you know, maybe Natty, Lyra, maybe and maybe you have Io join them, right? Io Shirai or Io Sky, because I think Kyrie and Dakota are both injured right now. So maybe EO joins. Yeah, that's what I'd probably do. As of right now, EO joins Natty's team that she's had the past few weeks. And then so it's EO, Zelina, Natty, and Lyra versus Pure Fusion Collective and Ivy Nile. That's probably my 4-on-4 women's match right now. And that's just, off the top of my head, but I don't know. All right, we got a big fan from New Zealand. My question is, who's going to take the pin? Okay, we already talked about that. We got, hey, PTC, I acknowledge you. Hope you're doing well. What are your views on the Vince McMahon documentary, and are you going to watch it? Of course I'm going to watch it. I don't have any views on it right now. I haven't seen it yet. But, yeah, I'm going to watch it. I'm fascinated by the potential of what it could be. I think that's all. I mean, talk about speculation. You got a lot of wild speculation on that Vince documentary, and I think it's coming out soon, like this week. So, yeah, I'm strapped in for it, dude. I finished the Menendez Brothers show. I'm ready for the next thing. Kyle writes in, longtime listener to the podcast since the Katie Linendahl days. Given your experience with WWE, AEW, and interviewing legends from all eras, I wanted to get your advice. I recently was at my local mall and saw CM Punk walking around casually shopping. No one seemed to notice him, and I wanted to approach him to say, hey, maybe give him a fist bump, maybe even take a selfie if I was lucky. Based on the conversations you've had with wrestlers, what is your opinion of what to do in this situation? I acknowledge my OPTC, the only podcast tribal chief. From Kyle. Okay, so that's a good question because CM Punk just posted the thing about fans following people in the airport earlier this week. And some people take it wrong. Look, to go up to somebody and ask for a picture, ask for an autograph, that's not strange. To follow somebody in an airport and follow them around is not cool. People feel threatened when they are followed around. To follow a human being around as if they are not a human being is not a cool thing to do. Just to watch them do what they do. I think that if you see somebody like CM Punk or another superstar in the mall and they're just shopping around, maybe you go into a store that they're going into, say, hey man, I'm a big fan, fist bump. And then if they're cool, use your humanity, use your human emotions. If they're like, oh, nice to meet you, say, hey, would you mind taking a picture? If not, totally cool. And if they don't want to, they don't want to. And if they want to, then that's awesome. But that's probably how I would do it. Approach them, say, hi, fist bump. I'm a big fan. Would you mind taking a photo? But people are weird, man. I've watched these meet and greets happen, and people and I get it. You're nervous. You're meeting a superstar. Like, I get nervous too. But people say weird stuff, and I think sometimes forget that the superstars are human beings too. But yeah, I think that's how I would handle it. I don't think there's anything wrong with approaching somebody you have an admiration for when you see them out and about in public at the mall. I don't think you want to interrupt somebody's dinner. If they're at the Panda Express, I don't think you want to interrupt their General Tso's. But if they're just walking around and shopping and stuff, fist bump, hey man, what's going on? Unless they're with their kids or something. Another Sam writes in, acknowledgements, my podcast tribal chief. Hope you and the family are well. We're fantastic. I'd like to request from your chiefness a favor. Probably not. I've been stuck in a loop of overthinking the meta of championships in 2024. Still having names based in geography and weight classes. Okay. Why do we have a world heavyweight championship that's the only championship with referencing a weight class? Why can't it just be the world championship? They've tried a cruiserweight title multiple times, but the cruiserweights can win the world heavyweight championship. So then what's the point of the cruiserweight championship? Well, I think that people say world championship, but ultimately, world heavyweight championship has always just been the premier name for a championship. In boxing, the heavyweight fights were always the big fights. Even in MMA, the heavyweight fights are the big fights. You love seeing meaty men slapping meat. It's the way people have always been. So I think that's just been a name that was put on the title, especially in the very early days of pro wrestling, where people could understand what they were watching. And I think that as it evolved, historically, they weren't going to change the title's name, but I think that that's all it is. And what the hell is a United States champion? Is it more or less encompassing than a North American champion? Now we have Continental Championship, a National Championship, an International Championship, an Intercontinental Championship, not a World Championship, but a World Heavyweight Championship. Now New Japan has a Global Championship, and don't even get me started on a Universal Championship. What the hell is going on? Well, they define what these titles name. Look, you're not wrong, but they define what these titles mean from a narrative perspective. The United States champion would say that you're the best wrestler in the United States. Is it more or less encompassing than a North American champion? Yes. The North American champion would be the best wrestler in all of North America. The North American champion would be the best wrestler in the United States and in Canada. Now we have a Continental Championship. Yeah, that one I'm not 100% sure of. You're the best wrestler in whatever continent you're in. A National Championship, which... no, a Continental Championship is the best wrestler in the continent you're in. A National Champion is the best wrestler in the country that you're in. An International Champion is a wrestler who's defended that national championship in other countries. Intercontinental Championship has gone between continents, but is not necessarily the best champion in the world. When we already talked about the World Heavyweight Championship, and the New Japan's Global Championship is the champion who can defend outside of Japan, where most of New Japan shows are. And the Universal Champion is the one title. Well, first of all, there is no longer a Universal Champion. The Universal Championship doesn't exist anymore. However, when it did, it was the one title to end them all. That's it. This is the very, 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 very best one. But it doesn't exist anymore. The Universal Championship has been changed to the WWE Undisputed Championship. Hope that clarified things. Yeah, our man Avik writes in, have you gotten into a band or music of some sort because of wrestling? For me, it was Motorhead after Triple H's theme. Side note, what's your favorite wrestling theme? I go DX or Evolution. I mean, Triple H's The Game is probably the best by Motorhead. And yeah, obviously, I got into the DX band because of wrestling. Nicholas writes in, hi, boss. How is it going for the Roberts family? Unbelievable. A lot of people are thinking about Alexa Bliss being the she. Obviously, we're referring to the Wyatt Sixes vignette. Personally, I think she is the next target, but not the next ally. Becky could be a good choice, leading to Dallas versus Rollins. What do you think? No. I think that Becky doesn't have an official comeback date, and if she did, I doubt it would be with the Wyatt Six attacking her. I don't think Seth Rollins versus Uncle Howdy would do anybody any good, because Uncle Howdy's a babyface. People wouldn't know to boo or cheer. Seth would have to win because he's a top guy. And Seth already has problems to deal with Bronson Reed and with CM Punk. So I don't know where Uncle Howdy would come into play. So, no. That one's too long. Let's see. All right. Anthony writes in, we all thought we were so smart thinking that KO would betray Cody and Bash in Berlin. Instead, Cody betrayed KO by teaming with Roman. KO now has every right to turn. Great storytelling. Oh, okay. Not even a question. You should get your own podcast. Oh, let's see. This is going to be the last one. Tyler writes in, what kind of card? No, I already talked about Saturday night's main event, so we'll go to this. This will be the last one. Tim writes in, how's it going, Sam? Hope all is well with you and the family. It's incredible. Got a thought on the JBL situation. Okay, this is great. Great last email. I've been starting to think that maybe he's showing up at all these places, putting together a team of stars outside of WWE to eventually show up in WWE for a battle of WWE stars versus independent stars, maybe for Survivor Series or something. What do you think of something like that? Could be a cool story. Well, Tim, I will tell you that normally I would poo-poo you out of here, but it's feasible. It's more feasible now than it ever has been. I don't see WWE doing an invasion angle. I think it would be a risky thing to do right now because people actually really like WWE. So the idea of a bunch of independent people coming in, I think it'd be cool to see, but ultimately the WWE guys would just kill them. And, I almost feel like it would be a better fit for NXT. I think that if you got JBL to put together this Guardians of Wrestling group, from Game Changer, from MLW, from TNA, from AAA, and then they came into NXT, going, you guys, you kids don't know how good you have it. You know, you're supposed to be the future of this industry, but I've found the future of this industry. I found what this industry is really about, and you kids have no experience dealing with anything like this. The idea of the best independents, the best of the independents, led by JBL against the Performance Center's best recruits. I think that, to me, would be the real compelling thing. And as you've got the NXT going to the CW, NXT going to the CW, oh, man, I'd flip out over that. Your idea, except NXT instead of WWE. I'm on board. I hope you are too. Thank you for hanging out with us here on Notsam Wrestling. We'll see you real soon.